approve or amend the budget. This is an action item. Looking for a motion.
To approve or amend the agenda or the budget?
Excuse me, did I say the budget? I'm sorry, the agenda. To approve or amend the agenda as it's written, is there? Yep. The agenda. Okay. There's motion on the floor to approve the agenda as it's written. Is there a second? One second. Seconded by Tim McKinney. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Opposed, the same?
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, number 3 is public hearing. Go ahead, Mr. Collins.
Thank you. This is our annual public hearing in order to talk about the certified budget. What this actually does, the focus of this is setting in the tax rate. So I want to go through a little bit of historical information. And board, you do have a booklet here if you follow along in that, because I did highlight some stuff. So the beginning of your booklet is just good basic information about school finance. But if you go to that top tab, then you'll be right with me on the presentation. Like I said, I did highlight some stuff in your booklet so that we'll talk about. Okay, so we'll start looking at tax rate history. This is a 10-year snapshot then. It kind of gives us an indication of what's been going on with our rate. You can see that we proposed or published this year a rate of $17.50. Where I got this change, I just compared what fiscal year 7 to the current proposed. That's an increase of 90 cents or about 5% in the tax rate. But you'll see a trend here. It has not been consistently increasing. It's been up and down, all the way from a low of $16.60 to $24.43. So, down, up, and now we've got some stability. Many districts, that's one thing they strive for. So, the past 4 years, we're going to be fairly stable. Property valuation, this is the one area where we've had consistency. Every single year, the value of the property in the district has increased anywhere from 1 to 3%. That's important because the valuation will impact the rate. The more value we have in our district, then the lower the rate it takes to raise the same amount of money. So we have this is our low, about 128 million, all the way to 181 million. So over that time period, about a 52 million increase, 41%. There's the range, the high and low. So we have tax rate, property valuation. Also, we're going to have certified enrollment, roughly the same time period, fiscal year 7 to 15. We talked a lot about the recent increase. If you look back a few years, we were at 725. So comparing that rate to the current enrollment, and this is the enrollment we do in October, we have a change of 60 students, but also lots of up and down. So moderately high to really low, and now it's climbing again. But the overall change is an additional 60 students. So the ranges were all the way from 670 to 785. So lots of fluctuation there. And you'll see the same thing in our unspent authority balance. So again, about the same period of time, a change from fiscal year 7 to that I took here because that is established 2.1, almost 2.2 million. Now that's a change of, no, I'm sorry, I think I took that the estimated. It's a change of 1.8 million. It ranged, though, that's a pretty dramatic change over the years, all the way from a negative 342,000 to this is the actual. At the end of June 30th of last fiscal year, we were at almost 2 million high. Okay, now if you'll turn the page in your booklet, is our tax certification. And I don't have it highlighted on the slide here, but I want to start that. So the tax rate, if the state approve, right now we don't know what the state's going to approve or if they're going to approve any rate. If they don't, then the default is 0. So you're going to see several different scenarios here as far as depends on what SSA the state sets. That will impact our tax rate. Likely there's not a dramatic shift between 0 all the way to 3%. And so that's what we're going to look at now. This would be the highest possible, $17.50 would be the rate in order to raise the amount of money that we're entitled to. Here's one thing I want to point out. You know, the debt service, currently we're spending $500,000 a year with a GO bond, and that was probably originally passed about 17 years ago. It was a 20-year loan. That's $2.55. So in just 39 months, that debt will be retired. That'll impact the tax rate by $2.55. That puts us down below 15, which is low to average in the area. Right now, we're average to high when we compare it to our neighbors. Okay, so pretty important. 39 months will go by fairly quickly. Okay, so that's at 3%. This is the aid and levy sheet, and there are very few cells that we influence, but here we went ahead and put in a 3% increase. So if the state decides to give us 3% in each of those categories, so you can see how that can vary, because they might decide to increase one by 3 and another, the TSS by 2 and professional development by nothing. But for this scenario, we put in 3%, assuming that would be the very highest that the state was settled. Right now, the House is proposing a 1.25. The Senate is proposing a 4%. What we're hearing from some of our local representatives is we might be in the range of 2.5, and we're going to feel fortunate about that. Whereas you've heard me advocate, it should be 4%. At that rate, this 2.2, this box, that tells you. So this that 3% would translate into an increase for each student of $191. Okay, and so the new student cost per pupil would be $6,580 if we get a 3% SSA. Now, the next 7 or 6 pages, the aid and levy is a 7-page calculation. And again, we have very little influence over most of it. So at the end of the day, we'll go to the next scenario. And you'll notice many of these numbers are the same because our debt doesn't change. So we still have to levy for that $500,000. Still going to spend $2.55 of tax rate on it. But if the state sets the rate of increase, it used to be called allowable growth. Now it's SSA, supplemental state aid. If they set it at 2%, our tax rate would be $17.48, or a couple cents less than the 17. And then all I've done is I put the aid and levy sheet to show you this is how I came up with that. We inputted a 2% increase. On 2.2, that means every student would be worth $127 more. And there would be the new student cost, or what every student would be worth as far as state aid. So that was at 2%. Next one you're going to see at 1%. Again, a lot of things never change. Our management's the same. Debt's the same. If we get a 1% increase, the rate drops to $17.45. Turn the page, you'll see that on the aid and levy. That's where that's reflected. With a 1% increase, you go to 2.2, that means every student will get a bump of $64. So every student would be worth $64.53. Okay, and then final at 0%. It drops a couple of pennies, $17.43. put zeros in the aid and levy. 2.2, no increase, so it's, this current student cost stays the same, which is $6,389. Actually, it's $6,388.72, but it's rounded up. So my proposal, or recommendation would be to go ahead and adopt the budget at the highest rate, that's $750, because we can always lower it, but we can't increase the tax rate. Okay, the only way that this would come back to bite us would be if they set a rate at higher than 3%. I think that's very, very unlikely. So I think we're safe adopting, and it would give an artificially high tax rate. And I don't think we really need to stir the public up that way. So yeah, my recommendation would be to approve adopt the budget at a 3% SSA with the understanding that if SSA is lower, we'll lower the tax rate. All we got to do is call the Department of Management and they'll adjust it. And that's it for the budget hearing.
Excuse me. Are there any questions for Mr. Collins or for anybody else? I think the last conversation that I had with Mr. Beanstra, he quoted something, did I say 2.5%? But in reality, there is no talk going on, I don't believe at all at this point. So
I think we better be ready for zero.
So,
Superintendent, that was
It would be illegal. Did you see the Department of Ed's response? I think basically they said, yeah, what are you going to do? And they said, well, we're going to take the superintendent's license away, and then they're going to initiate a phase 2 audit. I think you're all familiar with those. That's what happened to Russell. So yeah, the state could come in and close down and work down. Now that's a little unlikely because they're so big. Yeah, basically what he's saying, I'm not fully supportive of that, because what he's saying is we have $24 million worth of cash, excess cash. They're going to use that to run their business. That's illegal. You can't do it. You have to have the authority. So, I mean, that's basic to school finance. So I think there's misinformation. You know, people now may come to us and say, well, you're sitting there with, you're going to say later on, yeah, we have $2.2 million sitting there. Why don't you use that to build gyms and buildings? Because we can't.
but in the other side of it all, we're still, even at 0%, we're still going to get $6,389.
In our situation, yes, and we're fortunate here because we increased our enrollment.
Yeah.
And so those are going to be new dollars, even at 0%. The only way we could get hurt, and I'll comment on this during the budget guarantee, is if they came up with a negative.
Like take 10%.
Right, yeah, then that would hurt us. Because we had a 4% increase, so that gives us a 4% cushion. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this is an action item. So there are two items actually that we're voting upon, correct?
Well, why don't we do the budget first and then the budget year come next?
Does everybody fully understand what they're reading? Anybody have any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion from the board to approve the budget that was presented to us.
Published, that was published.
published budget. You need to say with the
I
understanding.
would, yeah, make it clear.
With the understanding that if the state comes through, we will adjust the budget through the proper channels.
It said an SSA of lower than 3%, then we're going to adjust our tax rate accordingly.
And it's indicated in our workbook and in our worksheets of how that could be done. But Tim McKinney made a motion. Did you get the whole motion? Okay. Is there a second? Second by Don Hummel. Any discussion, comments on what we're about to take? All those in favor of going motion that Tim made, current published budget, noting that it depends on what the state comes through with us, we'll adjust accordingly. Indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Okay. The next item is the budget guarantee. We don't need it unless the state would do the unthinkable and give us a negative SSA, and then we could possibly have less revenue coming in than we did this year. In that instance, or for the more typical example would be if the district loses enrollment, and so their revenue is going to be less next year. What a budget guarantee does is it adds that cushion. You're guaranteed 101% of this year's revenue. And basically, it's just so that you have a year of planning. Now, that extra money comes from property tax. So, you know, it's not a good thing, but it can help you to do a better job of planning. The reason I'd say we would want to do it, I mean, again, it's just a safety net in case they do the unthinkable and give us a -5, which I don't anticipate that. But also, it's good to just have it on the agenda so that every year a board does it, so they never forget it or it slips through the cracks. It's just something good to do each and every year, so that, hey, if you need it, or if you have it and don't need it, great. But if you need it and don't have it, then that's not good.
Okay, so that's based on 101% of the current budget, of this year's budget, not the proposed budget. So,
I think you have a resolution. You actually need to read the resolution. Is that in the packet? No.
I don't think there's one in here.
No, I didn't get that resolution. I was waiting for the
Just use the word resolution in your motion to say, we resolve to adopt the budget guarantee for the upcoming fiscal year. And then there's a resolution that you'll end up signing. Gary will have the board approve it.
This has got to be done by April.
Yeah, it's time sensitive.
We don't have a written resolution in front of us, but the resolution will read that, I'm not verbatim or anything, but it's 101%. It's an option that we have in case the state comes through with less than 0%, that we can actually increase the property taxes to give us additional money to run the school. It will be written up after this meeting, signed by Randy and myself, and submitted to the state at a later date, as soon as possibly it can be done. Is everybody okay with that? Well, I'm just saying that's what's going to happen. Okay, yeah, and then if we want to do that, then I entertain. What do you say? Tim McKinney has made a motion that we are going to go ahead with the resolution of the budget guarantee to be made up directly after the meeting, a short period of time, signed by Mr. Collins, President of the Board, and submitted to the state. Is there a second? Second by Dawn Hummel. Any other questions? Any other comments? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 4, we have a request to speak on the agenda items, correspondence, staff, and student recognition. Is there anybody that's in the audience to speak on any of the agenda items? If not, we have correspondence from the passing of, what was his name? Janelle Wayne, yeah. And Mr. Kramer. Want to go ahead with the students?
Yep. Number of recognitions. Congratulations to Nettie Montez for his 7th place finish and Corey Venort for his 3rd place finish at Youth State Wrestling. Congratulations to Antonio Tripete, Shania Marino, Alyssa Mendocino, Grace Agnes, Keely Schreiner, Rachel Sharp, Kaylee Bach, Nessa Bousseau, Kalina Tripete, Riley Newgard, all for qualifying for state speech. Congratulations to Shania Marino for being selected to perform her solo musical theater piece at Allstate. Val Haverall, staff and community volunteers for the Dr. Sioux Carnival on March 11th and 12th. The staff volunteers for the Family Literacy Night on February 26th. There were almost a third of our students and families in attendance. And again, a big thank you to our custodians, cooks, and bus drivers and the behind-the-scenes work that they do every day to make school happen.
Thank you, Brian. Move on to old business. Mr. Collins, do you want to take care of us with the Williams Company?
Yeah, we have a guest here, an expert in finance who actually conducted our audit. He'll present the audit.
Great. I don't know where you want me here, but
Wherever you want.
how about right here? My name's Graham Forbes. Like Randy said, I'm with Williams Company. We audited the school this year and have for the last several years here. And so what I'll do here is quickly run through the audit report, which is like most of you have a copy of here. I'll just kind of quickly run through a few high points, but feel free to stop me with any questions or at the end of any questions you have, and I'm more than happy to answer those. So, the first thing I'll draw your attention to is on page 2 of the audit report, and that's where you'll find the first page of our independent auditor's report. Kind of the main emphasis of this whole audit process is for us to put an opinion on the school's financial statements. And so in the last whole paragraph on page 2 there, in the opinions paragraph, is where we say that in our opinion, the financial statements contained in this document are fairly presented in all material respects. And so that's a clean, unmodified opinion, and that's what you're after. So no issues or adverse opinions or anything of that nature performance a clean, unmodified opinion. So good news there. Starting on page 4 is the management's discussion and analysis. And I always refer to that as kind of the cliff notes of the audit report of the financial statements. Rather than flipping through all 60-some odd pages, that's a good place to start to just get kind of an overview of where the school's at. And it also provides some good comparative information on where we're at compared to last year. And then school staff provides the commentary and the narrative for this section and explains why some of those changes happened. And then towards the back of the section also discusses some financial positions or other situations that will affect the school in a moving forward basis. So good piece of information there put together by school staff and provides a lot of useful information without going through the entire report. So a good place to start. From there, I think I will have you flip to page 16. And that's where we get into what are called the fund financial statements. On page 16 and 17 here, we present the balance sheet for the two major governmental funds, and then the other governmental funds is a combination of several of the smaller funds in the school, all combined in that column. And the governmental funds includes basically all aspects of the school with the lunch fund and daycare operations aside. Those are some statements we'll get to here after a few more pages for the enterprise activities. But just for the general operations school, the general fund is the overall operating fund of the school, and that's where a majority of your state aid, property tax dollars, and other items not designated for some other restricted purpose, that's where they're going to be accounted for. So you'll see towards the bottom of page 16 that the school had $1.7 million of unassigned fund balance at the end of the year. And so that translates into about 78 days of school expenditures that are contained in that unassigned fund balance amount. So what that means is basically the school has a little cushion in between the large property tax payments that come in March and September, or if a state aid payment would be late or anything like that, that there's a little bit of a cushion there for the school to be able to operate, make payroll, a few important key items like that in the, although somewhat unlikely, but in the event that some of those funding streams would be late or cut off or something. And we usually like to see that range of fund balance between 75 to 125 days of expenditure. So, I think you're definitely in a comfortable range for sure. I wouldn't like to see it get much lower, but in the range we definitely consider comfortable. So, good news there. And then if you'll flip to pages 19 and 20 is where you'll see, in essence, the profit and loss or the income statement for those same governmental funds. And you'll see towards the bottom of page 19 there that both the general fund and the debt service fund saw small increases in fund balance, which is moving in the right direction. Didn't see big increases, but at least held their own and were consistent from FY13. So that's positive. And then on the other governmental funds, you'll see a large increase. And what that basically consists of is a lot of timing or accumulation of funds, and several of the state sales tax fund, the HEPL fund, where they're funds that, will accumulate or hold funds until a school does a large or project. So it's, next year you may see a large decrease in this fund if the school has a big project they're going to undertake in FY15 or sooner. So that explains most of why we actually see that large decrease in the governmental fund. But quickly, on page 23, is the income statement, if you will, or schedule of revenue, expenses, and changes in that position for the two proprietary funds the school has, which is the school nutrition fund and then the before and after school operations. Both steady, if not an increase in school nutrition fund, in the net position, so both positive there, I think. And then starting at page 25, the notes to the financial statements. I'm not going to spend a lot of time there, but if you're looking to drill down in any certain areas I know Randy referred in the budget hearing to the general obligation debt. There's information in there on amortization of those bonds, interest rates, the makeup of the school's capital assets, the different accounting policies the school has in place and follows. So a lot of good detail if you're looking to drill down into any one area. Those notes should get pieces out there. The next item I'll quickly point you to is on pages 37, which is the budget comparison schedule. There what we do is we take the final budgeted amounts for, in this case, FY14, and compare those to what really happened in FY14 to kind of get a feel for, did we meet what we budgeted, both on the revenue and then on the expenditure side, based upon functional levels, which the state dictates the school budgets at that level of expenditure. As you'll see, overall, on the expenditure side, the school was under budget. There was one functional area on the instructional functional area that they were slightly over budget, as well as on support services. But overall, came in under budget for the year in the total expenditure expense area. So again, we'd love to see all functional areas be under budget, but at times due to unforeseen circumstances, things like that, that does happen from time to time. But again, positive that overall the school was under budget based on all areas combined. So no areas of big concern there. Again, just it's important for the school to keep track of that, and if necessary, amend budget. If there's timing and the situation arises where there's the time to get that amended, that's always good to do. But again, nothing to be alarmed. So otherwise, following that is a bunch of combining schedules where we show some of the smaller funds in the school and detail for each of those, greater detail for the general fund, break down kind of some of the functional areas by expenditure type, and then some reporting on areas that the state requires us to report on, and then the reporting for the federal dollars the school gets, which requires us to conduct what's called a single audit, basically a audit or further tests on those federal dollars to see that the school spent them appropriately and was in compliance with the various and quite lengthy regulations that the federal government puts on those grant dollars. So, but I'll quit rambling there, but be more than happy to answer any questions you have on those items. So. Randy, if there's other areas you'd like me to touch on or questions.
As always, we weren't perfect, so we have to go to the back.
Yep. So I think what Randy referred to is starting on page 55. There's what is called the schedule of findings and question costs. And that's where we report any issues we do find as it relates to the school overall as itself, and then specifically some findings as they relate to some of those federal programs I just mentioned. So starting on 55 are the findings for the overall school, I guess is how I'll put them. And that segregation of duties comment, basically any governmental entity of this size, you're going to see that 99% of the time. And basically what that segregation of duties comment says is that based on the size of the accounting and finance area of the school, there's just not enough bodies to put all the internal controls in place that we'd like to see. And that being said, we're not saying to go out and hire 4 more people just so we can make this comment go away. We realize there's some cost-benefit analysis that needs to be done there, and it's just not feasible to have that number of people in the school finance department. But yet, because of that condition, it does not allow some of the controls we'd like to see in place. So what it does do is it makes the job of the board in this case much more important, because you are a level of control, albeit at a higher level and certainly not a day-to-day position, but a check and balance on Randy and the rest of management is always necessary, especially in a entity of this size where there's a limited number of staffs and checks and balances, even more important. So that's what that comment refers to. The second item there with the school lunch cluster, I'll give a little more detail on as we move back. There's a few hiccups, I guess I'll call them, and some of the administration of the school lunch program, and that's what the item 2D14 refers to. And then on the top of page 56 is a finding you'll see in, again, probably 99.9% of all government reports that are issued, regardless of size, from small to large. So what this basically says, and if you've heard me do this presentation before, heard the same story, but basically about 6 or 7 years ago, the auditing standards board came out and said that basically if we are required to propose an adjustment to the financials because of some error, whether it be human error, calculation error, what have you, for any reason, then the internal control structure over financial reporting must not be operating correctly. You know, again, no preconditioning for if it's human error, if it was just an isolated whoops. And the part that I don't like is, regardless if the school had one journal entry or 100, you would still have the same finding if it was one material journal entry. So I feel like that it kind of loses some of its importance, or otherwise when you could, you know, see this finding at an entity that does a great job and, you know, for whatever reason, you know, had one thing slip by that we had to adjust, they're gonna have this, and then you go to the next school district or any kind of entity down the road that just does a terrible job and we have 100 entries, you're gonna say the same thing. So I feel like it loses some of the importance, but that's what that relates to. We did have a number, and I don't know off the top of my head, but I provide a letter to Randy, and I'm sure he would be more than happy to provide you that lists out all the journal entries that we do propose for the year. No more than last year, certainly, I would say. So it's not a condition where things are digressing or anything like that, but there are a few areas where, you know, we help out or provide some assistance and help adjust it to amount so that financials are fairly presented. So that's what that relates to. And then the next few items, starting on the bottom of page 56 there, are a few instances we found as we did that single audit or compliance testing on the expenditure of federal dollars, where we found a few instances that either, like this first item here, was where a student was awarded free meal status as far as their lunch account, or, you know, as far as the free and reduced status goes, without receiving a application or the proper documentation. I'm not sure exactly the criteria for how that got to the way it was, but I think the district recognized that there should have been some application process and a proper due diligence done prior to that student being awarded the free review status. So that was the item there at the bottom of page 56. Up on page 57 is the same type of situation where there was a incorrect award for a student to reduce status, where there's, in this case, there was an application received, but there was a miscalculation done during the calculation. Actually, all the proper income amounts were not included in the calculation of that determination. Is what happened in this case. So as a result, the student was awarded reduced meals when they should not have been. And then on the bottom of 57, again, is that same segregation of duties comments, but again, as it relates to internal controls over federal awards specifically, so a little bit of a repeat there. Up on the top of page 58 is a finding, and one item that when an entity expends over $500,000 of federal monies per year, they have to do the single audit process and also have to report what's called a SEPA, or a schedule of expenditures and federal awards. And you'll see on page 53 that schedule. And one of the items that the OMB, or the Office of Management and Budget at the federal level, is very strict on is they want the clients, or the entities, governments in this case, to be able to prepare that themselves, which I agree with them. It's very important that if they're not able to identify all the federal dollars, how are they properly able to make sure that they're in compliance with how they're spending those dollars? So one of the requirements from the OMB is that in this case, school district needs to be able to accurately provide us that listing of federal expenditures during the year. And what the finding on the top of page 58 says is we did have to make a few changes or modifications to that schedule to get it properly reflected of all the cash basis, or the accrual basis expenditures of federal dollars the school had in FY14. So that's item 314 there at the top of page 58. And then the last item here at the bottom of page 58 is another school nutrition cluster issue where due to some kind of miscommunication or error, there was a couple months worth of claims that the school did not get submitted to the state to ultimately get reimbursed by the state via federal dollars for some of their school nutrition reimbursable expenditures. And we kind of spell out there the amount of dollars we're talking. And I haven't, I guess, touched base, but per some communication with DOE, those amounts would be able to be ultimately reimbursed to the school. And I guess I don't know if they probably have been at this point already. I don't know that for sure, but I know that the process is being followed to make sure that those hours would be received.
I'm thinking they are, but.
Yeah, I don't know that, but I know that in correspondence with Des Moines that they would allow the school to reimburse those subsequently and still get that reimbursement. So that's what that last item refers to. Starting on page 59, those are some just required items that state auditor's office requires us to report on based on a few different code compliance areas that they feel are important. So that's what pages 59 to 60 and 67. So, and then following that is the finding from FY13 that the OMB requires us to report as scheduled prior to audit. So those are all just repeats of the FY13 audit report on pages 61 and 62. Any questions now? Sorry to be so wordy or maybe there, but. Thank you. Anything else, Randy? No, I think, so we've got a few issues there, but I think, Randy's on top of those and working to make sure that, get a few of those removed from our FY15 audit report as possible here, get the controls and review processes in place to ensure that some of those areas will get cleaned up and moving forward. So.
And I guess if you would offer an opinion so that the public and board could be reassured, did you see any indication of fraud or intentional mismanagement, or do we have a couple of?
I guess I'll just say, from the evidence and information we reviewed, I can say that I saw nothing that would indicate fraud or abuse. I guess I'm not going to sign a clean letter that, obviously that I can look at every transaction, can ensure that there's none of that out there, but from the information we reviewed and these items we reported on here, I can say that none of those were indicative of any, misappropriation, fraud, or lack of review process or human error, I guess is what was indicated to us by the information we received based on this information that I just discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Forrest.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Randy and his staff for helping us pull all this together and letting us come and meet for a week and correspond for a few months after that as we wrap stuff up. So thank you very much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is approve under 5B is approved board policies 414.1 through and including 419. This is an action item as we have gone through them. Is there anybody that has anything for us?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay,
One.
go ahead, Mr. Cook.
414.1. Personal leaves are not the same as in the master contract that I see here. However, personal leave days will not be used to extend holidays and vacations.
That needs to be updated because that's part of master contract that is allowed.
This isn't though, is it? This isn't part of the master contract.
To extend holidays, it is.
This says personal leave days will not be used to extend holidays and vacations.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That has to be updated in order to reflect what is in master contract. So that is not, like you had said earlier, is not reflective of our current policy that we have in master contract.
So then there's no, you're going to take out quite a bit of that paragraph.
That's correct.
Because they only get 2 days to do what they want, and then the other 2 days you have to get permission.
In actuality, it's 4 days of personal leave.
now.
Because that whole, yeah, as reflected in master contract currently reflects 4 days of personal leave, and there is no longer the, where's the other part too? They're not called employee discretion or personal leave and employee's discretion. We do not have the two difference. It is just considered personal leave, and also written in master contract, they are allowed to extend a holiday one time per school year, as long as they're, I believe, if I remember correctly from master contract, as long as not more than 10% of the staff chooses to apply for leave on that day. And that was negotiated about 3 or 4 years ago, I believe.
So, Mr. Cook, same deal. You know, when we bargain and change master contract, we should be updating our policies, but that's what this process is for. That's why we review policies on a regular basis. The master contract does rule, and it makes sense because we agreed to it in negotiations.
It does, the master contract controls all employees or just certified employees?
You're right, certified.
Which one?
Certified. Yep.
This is classified. So now the classified doing that?
We have been utilizing master contract as our guide for classified employees for probably 8 years since I've been here. When any questions have arisen, we've gone to master contract as supporting that detail.
Okay. So when this is finally, this is going to be modified and changed on classified, so they're in the same boat, so to speak.
That's a yes. Yes. Yeah, our board policy needs to reflect what we're doing.
Come on. Okay. All right, that's fine.
Because our lead code doesn't.
Like I said, this is an action item. We vote on acceptance of these board policies. Yeah, changes are actually made.
I'll make a motion to table until we get the changes made.
Motion has been made by Mr. McKinney to table code number 414.1. So necessary changes have been made. It will be presented to us at the next board meeting or at that time, we'll review it and act accordingly. Okay. Need a second? Second from Mr. Coons. Everybody understand what we're doing, what we're voting on? All those in favor of tabling this code, this item until it's been changed and presented back to us again, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. And that motion is carried and tabled. Thank you. We are on to the consent agenda. We'll be in 6A. We have February meetings, minutes, excuse me. Has everybody had a chance to read those, to see if they're accurate, to the best of their recollection? to us? Okay, motion made by Alan Hummel to approve the minutes as they have been presented to us. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Coons. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay, we have February invoices next under B. Everybody had a chance. Is there any questions concerning any of those? Mr. Cook?
Marshalltown Community School District, I don't know what YMH training is. Is that mental health stuff? That we gave $11,700 to?
It's for an entire week and also grant, they fully grant funding.
We have a grant for that, is that my understanding?
That's the one that Ms. Hensley presented on last month.
Okay, and we sent how many people?
Would have been the first series we sent.
Is this for the whole thing? First
Yep,
group
I
and
believe that's
second
what she
group?
said last month, yep.
Okay, so Y stand for YM.
Youth.
Youth.
We got an open enrollment in Boynton Hall. Do we order Boynton Hall someplace or split with that?
What I can say about the open enroll applications, they were all filed in a timely manner, so there's really nothing we can do about it.
Boyd Hall one was on there last year. We sent one student to Boyd Hall, I don't know what the situation is.
This is specifically for that same family.
Oh, they must live in our district, but the parents work in Boise or something like that?
They prefer to go to another district, as long as they file paperwork before March 1st. So we just hit that deadline, that's why you're seeing a flurry.
Is this like a one time a year amount or?
We pay each school district, how many times? We pay them based on when we get, when we get our payments from the state, then we pay each school district for
I
open
mean,
enrollment.
because obviously, I think we're crossing another school district, right?
That
So
used
was
to-
that amount less than,
It used to be where, how many years ago was it, where you could only do a neighboring school district, and it's about 1 or 2 years ago, where it could be, you did not have to be actually connecting to that school district to be able to open enroll. You can choose to open enroll to any school district in the state if you can get there.
But they have to do their own transportation.
Correct.
So that part doesn't cost us anything. And actually, the open enrollment rate, I mean, we end up keeping a couple $100. We get $6,390 for the child. I think the state rate is $6,100 or something.
And
But
in any EPAL or silent ones, and we also keep.
we also get $919 per student, and that doesn't follow the student open enroll balance. So, no, it's not a good thing. We'd rather have the kids here.
Could we get the breakout on the Visa card too, next meeting?
Bet we could.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? This is also an action item. Anybody have any comments, questions? I'd entertain a motion under the invoices, accepting invoices.
I make a motion to accept the invoices?
Motion made by Mr. Coons to accept the invoices as they're presented to us. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cook. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you. Mr. Collins, can you go through the financial report for us?
First of all, I'd like to make a statement. Jake started with us at the beginning of this month and is doing a fantastic job. Paying bills, coding invoices, helping with payroll, with some extremely wonderful support from Tammy Deegan. I can't say enough about Tammy's help through this transition. And also Danny Grader came in to help with the monthly reporting. I have every confidence. We're just going to keep piling it on Jake because he's a keeper. So things are going really well. So this is our snapshot of our monthly reporting. Same trend. So this reflects the school year, 2/3 of the way in, or 8 months worth. Last year, fiscal year 14, compared to this year in the month of February. So our cash balance, it's up 128,000. Our revenue balance is up 240,000. Naturally, expenditures are also going to be up 137,000. When you take a look at, okay, how much money just this school year is coming in, revenue compared to expenditures to date, we're on the plus side about 600,000. So that's a strong indication, and naturally over 4 months that can change, but the indicators are looking pretty strong. Now, because we did certified budget, that process kicks out a projected unspent balance sheet, and you know how I love this thing. That's still preliminary here, so boy, pay attention to that estimated on the top, because it's almost, again, too good to be true. But we got by putting in the numbers, and anytime you see 2, 3, 4 zeros at the end, that's usually what we've inputted based on guesstimates, but usually conservative estimates. So, we're looking at probably a reserve of $2.5 million by the end of this school year. Okay, and then again, it's always scary projecting out then another 12 months after that, but everything indicates more growth. And what's fueling that, the reason it's not a tremendous risk, it's because of our enrollment. Our 3 smallest classes are sophomore, juniors, and seniors. And if we maintain the primary, if we keep bringing in 50, 60 kids into kindergarten and graduate 40 to 50, we're going to continue to grow. So, to me, this is really feasible. We're probably going to continue to grow 200,000 to 300,000 for the next couple of years. That's all I have.
Questions for Mr. Collins? Comments? Entertain a motion. To accept the financials as they've been presented to us by Mr. Collins.
So moved.
Mr. Cook has made a motion to accept the Secretary's financial report that's presented to us by Mr. Collins. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Coons. Comments, questions before we vote? If not, all those in favor of accepting it as it is, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Under personnel, we have, let's see, 2 resignations. We have one from Ms. Orban. One of the principals want to
I can speak to that.
speak to that.
Jill and Adam are both music teachers. Adam teaches currently in the Sheldon School District as a high school vocal teacher. And he and Jill were approached with an opportunity in the Glenwood School District to both teach in their music program. They have 2 openings, one at the early primary ages, K through 2nd grade for Jill, and one for Adam at the high school level. So this will allow them to both get to live and work in the same community and raise their kids all together. Exciting for them, a very big loss for us.
We have a resignation from Mr. Van Beek.
In a conversation, Mr. Van Beek had came a time in which we felt that we were having his entertainment resignation from wrestling coach. He did a great service for us and appreciate his work over the past few years as head wrestling coach.
Okay. Under new contracts, you want to go through the ones that are pertinent to your,
Sure. Julie Quayle, elementary associate, is a replacement contract for the rest of this year for Mrs. Rader, who's taking that classroom at the Iris building as our long-term
K1
sub.
transition.
K1, multi-age, yeah. And then Janet Van Dieren is our daycare associate, our full-time daycare who also supports preschool support. So it's that, the one that was approved 2 months ago. And she comes with multiple years of daycare and preschool experience in Head Start. So that's why she's at the step 3 versus the step 1. And she has multiple years of Head Start background.
and you want to jump down to like, well, I guess none of them are.
None of them.
Okay, sorry, Ryan.
Nope, that's all right.
I'll let him take the rest.
I just see Mrs. Lockworth there.
Yep, no, the rest are good.
Go ahead.
Caitlin Lockhorst agreed to take the second assistant volleyball coach position. We approved that position due to the increased numbers in the volleyball program. Mr. McVeigh, this was one that we approved last summer, but contracts for the 14-15 school year had already been sent out. So actually, this would be one that, based on the numbers that we're seeing for the baseball program, we would need a second baseball coach. This would be the assistant junior high baseball coach. We had the same position last year. And Mr. Weirheim is currently the girls track coach. We did not hire a head boys track coach due to our numbers. And due to our numbers that we have this year, we have 13 girls out and 1 boy. We can combine that position into a head boys and girls track coach position. This was a negotiated piece in master contract, and we last year added those shared positions of head track and for boys and girls. So this would be really, in essence, only a title change because we did not find there would be an increased cost. Is that correct, Tammy?
That's correct.
So this would just be a title change on the contract.
With that being said, how do we handle, there's a number when we get to kids where we add a assistant. I think some places it's like 15 or 16. How does that work in dual things with girls at 13 and a boy at 1? Let's just say we get some new girls and we get 10.
We
How do
don't
we
have it
handle
on
that?
the lower level. It's been left up to the discretion of the athletic director or activities director. In this situation, knowing what kind of numbers we're looking at, we have it kind of on the how many assistants piece, but we don't have a guide into relation to when we combine it.
Yeah.
We can definitely look to update that. This one, I just used it as my discretion on there, knowing last year, based on the numbers, we cut that position because of that. I felt that this year, most likely, it was not going to be needed either. Hopefully, in the years to come, we have more out for track. But we will go back when we offer contracts. I've already spoken with Tammy. We will offer Mr. Weirheim the head girls coach, but we will not fill the boys coach until we know the numbers or have to sign up for the numbers.
So where are the boys? Let's just say, where are
33 of them are going out for soccer right now. And we have for golf, no, definitely not.
So,
And
not-
golf, I believe, what were Mr. Planning, these numbers? He had plus 20. So golf and soccer are the overwhelming choice of where kids are choosing to take their activities.
But yeah, we don't have any new assistants for them requested,
For soccer, not at this time. No,
not this month.
not at this time. Because they just started practice today.
Oh.
And so based on what we have, I will probably look to add a assistant that would be shared between the two girls and boys program next month. But that's pending. I want to go through a week because sometimes soccer's not as easy of a sport as sometimes first anticipated. And then after the first week, some decide this isn't really the sport for me. And so I want to make sure there's no trouble before we add that assistant in this situation.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Mr.
How
Cook.
does logistics work for Kate Longhorst, for an assistant volleyball coach? Is she in the elementary school here or over there?
She's in both buildings.
Okay, how does it work when she's over there in the start?
Just like we've had in the past with Mrs. Engelman, Mrs. Copeman's, Mr. Alderman, and what other coaches have we had in the past? Ms. Sheehan. What we do is we work, as when I was principal, they notify us on the days that they have to leave early, and they are able to have coverage for their classes.
So they take their class and then they're late for practices.
Practice, they might be late for games, there might have to be covered, yes.
The price we pay for having teacher coaches,
Yes.
which is something we like.
That's about logistics there. At least they're on staff, which is a good thing.
Okay. Then, I guess, under D3, in your packets, you see it was a contract amendment or a memorandum of understanding that's been drawn up to change Mr. Collins' contract that was originally a 3-year, change the actual contract to 2 years. Has everybody had a chance to read that or have seen that? That will be signed by Mr. Collins and myself after, if it passes. So, anybody have any questions on anything in the contract amendment in front of you? Mr. Cook?
There are
You're
no
the-
other contingencies to this, are there?
No, it's just changing, taking away year number 3 of your contract,
That's it.
of the contract that's on. And this is in accordance with the option that Mr. Collins offered us at the time we issued the 3-year contract. On his own accordance, he offered it back to us. If not, excuse me, if there are no further questions or comments regarding D and personnel, I would entertain a motion. To accept the resignations, the new contracts, and the contract amendment. Okay, motion has been made by Don Hummel to accept items 6D of personnel, resignations, new contracts, and a contract amendment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. McKinney. Any further questions in regard to what we're voting on?
Yeah, I got a question.
Okay.
With the wrestling coach, I mean, was it a mutual thing? I mean, this, you know, I guess I'd like to know what was, we get a nice letter from Jill, but we get a one-line deal for this guy. I guess for me to make a proper decision on whether I want to accept his resignation, I guess, you know, is it something the school's doing, or is it, you know?
It took place after a conversation with myself and him during his evaluation.
further questions? If not, all those in favor of accepting the resignations, the new contracts, and the contract amendment that are in item 6D, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, the same?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to ask how aye was voted. I did not hear. Okay. Pardon me? I'd like to know, what, is it 2 on the, I didn't hear everybody vote. Did you, Dan, Tammy?
Ask for a roll call vote.
Okay.
That way it's clear.
Okay. Go ahead, Tammy.
Mr. Witt, why don't you go first?
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, under consent agenda, the personnel did not pass. So,
Table something?
Mr. Collins, what are our options?
Okay, break them out,
Okay,
vote on each individually, so have a better.
I was voting on every A, B, and C, so I handled those the same way. That's why I did that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to step back. We're going to separate the personnel from resignations, from the new contracts and the contract amendment. So we'll start out with D under 1. Are there any new comments, questions, or anything before we make a motion? Do we make a motion or we just vote, Mr. Collins?
Ask for a motion.
Motion, okay.
Come on.
Okay, any questions under resignations?
And do you want to split them out individually?
I would.
By person, you mean?
By person.
Excuse me, okay. Under personnel, under resignations, we have 2 resignations. One of Ms. Warman and one of Mr. Van Beek, as was discussed earlier. Nothing has changed as far as presentation of each to that. Under Ms. Warman, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept this ordinance resignation.
Motion made by Mr. McKinney. Is there a second?
Support.
Second by Mr. Coons. Any questions? If not, all those in favor of accepting the resignation of Ms. Warman, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Under resignations, we have the resignation of Mr. Van Beek. Nothing has changed as was presented to us originally. I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we table that resignation.
Of Mr. Van Beek.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Coons has made a motion to table the resignation of Mr. Van Beek. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Cook has seconded the resignation of Mr. Van Beek. Any questions, comments regarding what?
So what, is this going to be addressed at a later time, or what's?
Sometimes it takes me a little while to think through what's there. I need some more information or something else on that particular situation. I'd like more information.
Okay,
And it's a resignation. But, I want to take some time to think about it. Just not popped up. So we tabled it, and I assume
Well,
that.
now I have a question.
Well,
My question is we have a head varsity wrestling coach who has submitted his resignation, and we're going to table it.
says, the word says, I am choosing. I'm not sure what the question is that it sounds like. He's choosing to do it. What more information do you?
Some more clarity.
Okay, I guess for me, for interpretation of what I'm hearing is that at this time, they want, Mr. Cook wants a chance to either talk to Mr. Van Beek, talk to Mr. Kramer, who is the AD, or review the information that's in front of us. Is that what you're after too, Mr. Coons? Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second, so we'll take a vote. Clear on this now? Probably not totally.
Not totally, but I mean, the motion's been made and it's been seconded, so
Okay.
something's gonna happen. Either it's gonna pass or it's gonna fail.
Okay, in this, when something's tabled and it is tabled, it gets voted on, what is our next thing? We have to address it again at a later time, correct?
Yes.
I mean, so it will come back up?
Yes.
Okay. So that's known, correct? Okay. All those in favor of the tabling of accepting Mr. Van Beek's resignation indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Okay. Tabling, the motion of tabling the resignation passed. Excuse me. Under new contracts, under Julie Coyle, do I have a motion of accepting the contract that is presented to us and has not changed from the original presentation to us? Okay. Motion made by Dawn Hummel to accept Julie Coyle's contract as is presented. Is there a second?
Support?
Go ahead.
Well, I would like to amend the motion and say, let's just approve the contracts for Julie Coyle, Janet Van Beer, Caitlin Lockworth, Adam McVeigh, and Denny Miron.
Okay. So in essence, Mr. McKinney is asked to amend it and include all of the names that are under new contracts versus just Mrs. Coyle's, correct? That's what your intention. Okay. Okay. Mr. Coons supports the amendment to the motion. So the motion has been changed now, correct? Okay. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm doing this right. Is there a second to the amendment, correct? Second from Dawn Hummel. Okay, you can do that even though you made the original.
I changed it, so.
Okay.
Second, changed.
Okay. Motion made, seconded by Dawn Hummel. Any further questions of what we're doing? Or if not, all those in favor of accepting the amended motion, which states Julie Coyle, Jan Van Buren, Dennis Weirheim, Ms. Lockhorst, and McVeigh of new contracts indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Then under the contract amendment of Mr. Collins,
We just voted for the amendment, right?
Not that amendment. I amended the first motion to do
It's the contract.
just the new contracts. So we need to have a motion that says we would like to make a motion to amend the contract amendment with Mr. Collins.
No, I think there's, unless I, on the asleep, I don't think I am. But we have to okay the amendment. Now we have to
I think we did
vote
that
on the
already.
motion. Then we have to vote on the motion and the amendment.
I think we did that.
We did that, I didn't hear that.
Well, how I worded it, Tammy, was the amended motion, if I remember right. Proper or not, but that's how I stated what we were voting for.
Right.
Is that how you have it recorded?
Yes. Amended by Tim. Amended the second, it was the motion was second.
And what Ken is questioning, did they vote to amend the motion, or did they vote on the amended motion? That's what Mr. Cook is asking.
I remember I directed the vote that it was the amended motion. I remember that. Is that how you, and you said that's how you had it?
But I think, that's all right, I'll go with it.
Okay. Now we have number 3 under D, which is the memorandum of understanding. It has not changed from the original presentation of Mr. Collins's 3-year contract back to a 2-year, which removes year number 3. Is there any motion is there a motion on the floor?
Well, it was.
Okay.
Maybe to read.
Yes, could you please?
I
I'm
would
sorry.
love to. I would make a motion that we approve the contract amendment with memo of understanding between West Sioux Board of Education and Mr. Collins to go from 3 years to 2.
Okay, motion made by Mr. McKinney. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Coons. Any questions? If not, all those in favor of accepting the amendment to his contract under a memorandum of understanding, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. That motion carried. Thank you. Under number 7, Mr. Bach, can you go through with the cube with us?
Yeah, this won't be very long. I just want to, we talked about the cube 2 months ago, our last month, and I just wanted to show you our cube site. What this is it takes me about 5 seconds to set up a cube, and we have an iPad designated for the cube now with a 45 times lens, and it'll show any event we want. We can stream it for free. So we've done dance, we did the middle school vocal festival, we did, anytime West Sioux is playing somewhere that has cube as well will show up on our page. So when they were at Central Lyon for the regional semifinals, that was an audio live, and then an hour after the game it showed, you could see the replay of the video, but they had to wait till after the game. That's state rules for that. And then we did all of the varsity games after the first of the year, unless we missed, I don't think we missed any varsity. I and Mr. Kramer pretty much worked them all. Going forward, I'm not necessarily volunteering my time for every game, but I'll help out. We are looking for volunteers if they'd like to. Matt Hummel helped one time, did some play-by-play. We have a setup now that's 2 separate mics, so it sounds like, and when you listen to it online, it sounds like a game. Mr. Kramer's done a nice job with the play-by-play on that. I've had people call and tell me that sometimes the mic's off, and we get text message during the games, and they'll help me edit it. I'm not a TV guru. So we started off, we got better, I think, every time. By the end, I think we've got it figured out how we're going to be able to stream these games to the public. I don't feel that we've lost any gate because of the cube. Speaking with other districts, they have shown the same thing. What it really has enhanced is people that are unable to make it here can still watch their kids play, or our kids can be seen a lot of schools in Northwest Iowa are starting to do cube, and it seems more and more all the time.
What does that cost us, Bob?
Nothing.
There you go.
Any questions?
Eventually, I know Mr. Bach and I have talked about it. We'd love for kids to take it over. The announcing, the videoing. I know Mr. Grader back there has helped us out with the videoing.
Alex?
A number of times, so he's helped us out a lot. And it's a great program. I know I've had continuously the day of games, if we're going somewhere, I had people asking, hey, do you know if it's going to be on the cube? And then we have, the opportunity to eventually advertise through local businesses advertising on that. We plan to do the soccer games here coming up this spring, baseball. We do have difficulty with, there has to be access to the internet. So like in the Ironton facility for softball, that we do not have any internet access, so we're not able to broadcast those games, but we are able to broadcast the baseball games. So it's a neat program. It's very, very simple. If I can run it, it's pretty easy.
So the audio is real time and then the video is later, or?
Actually, the only time that would be the case, usually video and audio is right at the same time, unless it's a state event like a district or playoff game, because the state will not allow anybody to broadcast the game because they feel strongly that it takes away from their gate.
But actually, the state tournament used cube for the early games this year too. I noticed.
Yeah, exactly. The first round games were actually, the state
They used the
cube
same program that we're
Wells Fargo.
using to broadcast them. I mean, it's pretty, it doesn't take a whole lot of internet access either. I was driving home from wrestling meet and Mr. Martinson was watching a game one time on my phone. So it's not, it's pretty easy to use, it really is.
Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
Okay, start out with the middle school, high school reports from Mr. Kramer.
We have received back our Iowa assessment scores. Fortunately, it happened just last Wednesday, so I was not able to go in and look at the data very much. I've had a couple of teachers send me their breakdowns, so hopefully we will have some for you next month. I'd like to thank the 3 board members that were able to come on short notice for the SIP walkthrough. It was, I think, very educational for our board members who had an opportunity, and we'll be doing it again. So we'll put that out there for any board members that would like to attend that. It's very informational. Shows you how our professional development is working and gives you an indication on kind of what our day is like between 8 and 3:30. The Plus team, they had a very busy week last week. Great event for assemblies for middle school and high school students. And they hosted the second Warriorville Conference Plus event. That was also on a number of local news stations. And it's a great program, works again towards our goals of building relationships with students. I'll discuss more building and grounds information. Other personnel information. We did not have any applicants internally for the full-time tech position. So it was suggested that we break that apart into 2 half-time positions. As we had the two half-time positions, Mr. Josh Martinson did submit application for the Haywarden building for the half-time position. And Mr. Bach has accepted that application, and Mr. Martinson is here, I'm sure, would be happy to answer any questions that you may have of him in regards to his interest in moving into that position. And then, of course, I continue to have our enrollment data.
This might be not something I should ask, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. How are you covering his other half day?
That's what we're going to look at after the next 2 weeks. Mr. Hanson will have sign up for classes. So we'll determine our needs for courses and determine if we have to hire a half-time science to replace that, or if we'll be able to replace it with courses already offered, or actually, because with the individuals already on staff. Because what would be, we wouldn't be adding any new FTE that the board did not approve. The board has already approved 1.0 FTE. This is moved, so there still would be the same expenditure from FTE. Full teacher equivalent, full-time teacher equivalent.
I understand that part. But we are adding staff at the middle school level.
That's correct, but that was for our increased enrollment. This wouldn't
That I
be due to.
understand.
Yeah.
So if we have a change in activities director, how will we cover the other half a day that's going to be up?
If you remember from when we offered that middle school position, that's what I talked about specifically, was when we had to fill that math teacher's time, Mr. Boza's time, and the increased enrollment, was then we're able to cover that for him.
All right, so then our enrollment stays the same and they move through the grades. That means we're going to hire more people.
If our enrollment stays the same.
Well, if
I'm
you got
sorry.
the top 2 or 3 classes that are small and the big ones are coming in, that's what's happening in middle school.
Correct.
So at the high school level, we're going to have to add maybe staff unless we can get it covered some other way.
Yep, that'd be the case. Increased enrollment would possibly require us to increase teaching staff. Yep.
And when do contracts come out?
After negotiations.
After that? When is that?
That's a great question. When the state decides how much money they're going to provide.
Ken, you're.
Just say you're a spokesperson, so.
I am.
Yeah, get that negotiated with you.
I'll go
You're supposed to tell us.
I'll let you know. Tomorrow. No, it's happening tomorrow. Let's get this going. So I am,
Any questions?
so far.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, I have just my board reports in front of you. Staffing in elementary, we've talked about now. That was in your report. Mr. Planner. All the other positions at the elementary level open today or Friday. I think Timmy posted to the state for the other positions that are open from our retirements. So we will be looking at hiring for next year. That's going to be a big job, and the teams are ready. The next one, kindergarten registration, we had our roundup on Wednesday this week, but we had the parents come last, March 9th, and we have enrolled about 71 kindergarten, TK kindergarten students, about the same as last year, so still forecasting about 76. For those, there are some kindergartners out there that haven't gone to preschool, so that's the tricky part, is we don't know how many there are. Last year I forecasted between 8 and 10, and we had about 8. So I'm trying to sit at that 78 number to forecast for class sizes and teachers. So about the same as this year. And I also, having a 3-year-old preschool program and 4-year-old preschool program gives us an opportunity to see where we're moving. There's a slight decrease in the 3-year-old preschool program for next year, but there's an increase in the 4-year-olds. 4-year-olds will be a little bit bigger, 3-year-olds small, and then our baby numbers are increasing again. So it's a new year. Keep having kids. The sign-up update. It's true, I'm sorry. Sign-up, basically, we had we sent in our testing data today, so we'll be getting that back in April. A visit to Council Bluffs, I'll be headed there next week to view their PCL model. It's a model of literacy, and I talked about it when I did my literacy spotlight a couple of months ago. Just a chance to really see what we could do here in a small rural school versus Council Bluffs, which is much bigger, but we have the sign and learnings to do something like that. So want to look at it closer. Daycare, the daycare preschool board met. Originally, we were going to present a plan, financial plan for this month, but we have tabled it so we can look more closely and specifically at all of the different pieces. So this last month, we talked about rates, and we're hoping, we talked about the daycare director being taken out of the daycare budget and put as a general fund expenditure. And we'll be looking at staff pay increase all at the same time. And our goal is to have that to the June board for discussion and a vote here. Mr. McKinney's on that daycare preschool board as well, so he's going to support.
I have a request.
Yes.
I hope it's not too, but the scope of this, there's no way you could have it to us in April meeting.
I can take it back to the board.
Well, the reason why is you want to implement it at the beginning of the new school year.
July 1st, yeah, July 1st.
Okay, and I don't know what is our board meeting, probably, it's going to be the third Monday night in June.
Oh, good point.
That way you can be presented and then.
Could we do May vote then? Like maybe a presentation in April and a May vote? And that way it's done.
Well.
Would that be okay? So if there were any changes
We're just,
or questions?
yeah, I guess, but
Okay.
for my
Get
sake,
ahead. Get ahead.
for my sake, that way you have time to look and think about it versus it's,
I'm sure we can make it work.
well,
Yeah.
you may want to ask that before you assume that you can.
We can make it work.
Because I don't, trying not to be.
My daycare director's here, so we can make that work.
Having it more earlier?
We'll have a couple extra meetings.
I wouldn't mind if we raise the rates now.
Yeah, right.
And raise my employee pay.
We'll work on it.
Really nice.
Anyway,
That's what
Yeah.
ultimately we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
What I would like it is just to get to us earlier so we can get on it the next
Oh,
meeting.
we can, because I did what they asked for already and have everything that they need for our next meeting, so.
that's why I say I think that would be fun. No problem. And then the last one is the daycare preschool board also accepted the recommendation for a 4-day program for the 3-year-old and 4-year-old to increase instruction for both programs, so that they come every day except Fridays in both 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. Exciting for the students, more increased instruction.
Can you speak to why we want to go to 4 days as far as the documentation and passing things
There is, so part of the challenge that we found is you have not as many instructional hours. So we looked at, the preschool teacher and I have looked at different programming for the preschool. The 4-year-old preschool grant requires that we have a certain amount of hours, which we meet having a 3-day program. The challenge is that they come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we'd like to see something a little more routine-like, so that it's not so hard on the kids to transition. So we're looking at that for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. The 4-year-old grant also requires by the state this gold assessment, which is huge. It has about 34 standards that have to be documented on every single child 3 times a year. And so the teacher is required to do that throughout the whole year. And she's been doing that as much as she can. But we're going to use Fridays as that data day. As well as IEP, because she's also the preschool special ed teacher. So she'll also be doing all of the IEP paperwork that she's required to do. So that was a question that was the daycare board asked about, preschool board asked about. Did that answer that?
Well, I think so, but
Do
I
you-
already knew.
Yeah. I know, but I wanted to, did I answer it in the way that you were looking? Was it clear?
Yes,
I
sir,
guess is
Mr.
my
McKinney.
question. Was it clear?
So this is for next year?
This is for next year, yeah. And that the preschool daycare board is the board that makes that
So
programming
is that
decision.
preschool teacher ready for some really good-natured 3-year-olds on that 4th day?
She is. Yes, she's into it. She's excited.
She's a good teacher.
She's into it. High energy.
Any more questions for Mrs. Donstedt?
Andrea Rowell, my teacher, yeah.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yep.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the first reading of board policies, or excuse me, superintendent report. Sorry, Mr. Collins.
Yeah, 'cause I'd like to go after a headline here, if I could get us all to start chanting that the children of Iowa are being held hostage to the political process. I mean, that's what's happening right now at the state level. There's a good chance we're going to end up with 0% growth, and there are a couple reasons being given that I don't think hold water. What we've seen in the last week or two now, the House/Republicans have proposed a bill that would change the way arbitration is handled, so that would be anti-labor. Democrats are labor supportive. So we're seeing a fight here, and I'm concerned that what's being held hostage is these supplemental state aid. That the House/Republicans are going to play hardball until somehow they can make the system a little less labor friendly. And specifically with arbitration, what the bill proposes is that an arbitrator doesn't have to choose one or the other of the final offerings. The arbitrator could come up with something that they think is fair in between. And that's a real sticking point right now. We're hearing from the House/Republicans that they're already giving us $50 million this year, $100 million next year, and $150 million the year after to fund ed reform. Well, that doesn't pay the light bill. So if you can't afford to fund educational reform and allow us to pay the light bill, then I think the choice is pretty obvious. You're going to do away with educational reform. And at the same time, maybe look at some of the unsustainable property tax relief that's been implemented here the last 3 or 4 years. That's why they can't afford to fund or public education. So if you can't do it, then drop it. Drop the new stuff. Drop the property tax relief, drop the educational reform. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Anything under board member reports?
Here,
Mr. Cook.
Thank you. Contrary to what we had last year, we are on course to improve our percentage in attendance. And this month we operated at 92%. Last year was somewhere around 91. However, I noticed that sick days on Friday are occurring most often than anything else. So apparently they get sick on the first 4 days and then they take the next one. That's just my inductive thought. But anyway, we are doing better than we did last year. At 97 days that were used. That's all I have. Unless there's some questions.
Next question. Are there any questions for Mr. Cook? Thank you, Mr. Cook. Under new business, we have first reading of board policies 500 through and including 501.16. This is a non-action item. This is the first reading. They are in your packets. You've had a chance to read through them in this time. If there's anything you want to bring up, we have another opportunity to do it at the next board meeting before we are asked to bring it into action. Are there any questions?
I have none.
You have what?
I have none.
Okay. Under open enrollment, in your package, you'll see there's numbers of open enrollment. Anything that Ryan or Carey or Mr. Collins want to say to this? Okay, they were all put in the right amount of time, and they've all been for the various reasons. Are there any questions from the board? Or any comments concerning enrollment? This is a non-action item also because they did put it in on time. Okay, there's no questions. Mr. Kramer, go on with the project estimates. Now, these are requiring action. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Kramer.
These would be part of the informational item that was covered last month. And this is really the reason I wanted to inform the board last month of these, is so we could be on the front end. Cabinetry seems to be something that takes quite a long time to make sure that we have it on time, in place, as soon as the kids get out of school, and we have everything in place so the teachers can come back in. We wanted to make sure we had that. You'll notice that you've had a bid from Pies Construction. That bid includes the cost of cabinets from Schoenemann's. Those will match the cabinetry that we've ordered over the last 3 years in our projects. That includes 2 rooms in Hayward and 1 room in Ironton. We have carpet central bids for 5 classrooms, and that would be 2 up here at the high school, 1 at the Ironton Elementary Building, and 2 at the Hayward Elementary Building. I'm going to steal your...
Go ahead.
I'll take you back here. You'll notice in our Peppel silo budget, the 2-room remodel for the Hayward building, we budgeted $34,000. That came in under budget, $28,710.28. The Ironton Elementary 1-room remodel comes in at just over $14,091.62, and the 2 rooms of carpeting comes in just under budget at $6,075. That does include carpeting, so I added carpeting and the remodel cost of construction and everything. So if we were to go down and look at our total, if we were to approve, and that is my recommendation, is to approve these bids, we would be going from a cost of expenditures of $1,056,429.58 to a actual reduction of $1,050,806, which would increase our carryover next year, because these projects came in, 1, significantly under budget, and 2, only slightly over budget. So it'll be a savings of $6,000 from our budget.
Okay, and so in other words, we don't add the Schoenemann's and the Pies together.
Yes, you do not, no, they are not separate bids. Schoenemann's is not bidding for the cabinetry separate. It's part of the same. I wanted to make sure we had the cabinetry irregardless
We did it
of
that
who
way
we
last
did.
year.
Exactly. And so that's why Schoenemann submitted their portion of that information.
And then there's also, under item 2, under Pies Construction, it says does not include flooring, that's because of carpet.
That is correct.
Do you ever contact any construction outfits so we could have more than one bid?
I have, when I first did it, I contacted as many as I possibly could. And now, since then, what I've done, rather than just contacting individuals, because there sometimes can be a bias between my relationship with them. I know some better, I know some, not as well. Some have done work for me, some may have not. I put an advertisement in the newspaper to open it up to everybody in order to have everybody informed at the same time, have the same access, and then have that same information.
Pretty hard to make a decision based on one bid, in my opinion anyway, because there's no competition to do it.
The challenge would be, how do I get those if they're not interested in an advertisement?
Well, they may not have seen that. It's a possibility, or at least we could have some idea from the ballpark.
The challenge also that I presented last year, which I think ties our hands, is you'll remember last year we had 2 carpeting bids. One was for a lesser amount, and we went with the one that cost more because they were local. So that really inhibits us from getting more bids, quite honestly.
I can't bid this stuff because I can only make $2,500 on it.
Right, exactly. And I think that's part of the reason that many construction companies don't bid out these smaller projects, because the cost effectiveness of it.
I just think there should be more bids. That's all.
I would love for there to be more bids. I agree 100%.
If there are any questions, more questions for Mr. Kramer?
So just clarification, Pi's bid includes shovels.
That is correct.
In accordance to what the structure that Ryan set out, his 5-year plan, which is in accordance to that, and it actually comes under, you're obtaining everything that you desire with that.
Right now, for any, what I'd like to look with that savings is, I mentioned a number of other projects that we're going to look for this summer, including landscaping brick in the front, but those would come under later items after we get started. My custodians didn't have an opportunity to get bids on how much rock we would need in order to finish that project. So, and then the playground one will be another one that we have budgeted for up there that will.
But I meant this particular thing. That's what I meant.
These things accomplish exactly what I would love to accomplish on those items.
Okay. I would entertain a motion.
Motion approved the bids as presented for the classroom upgrades.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. McKinney. Is there a second? Second by Don Hummel. Any further comments, questions? If not, all those in favor of accepting the bids for the remodeling of the classrooms, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Then under D, we have weight room racks. We have the quote in our packet.
Yep, and you'll notice we have a few people in the audience in regards to this. I asked Mr. Suissa to be here. Our plan next year, if you'll, in previous years, we have offered a fitness course to run coinciding with PE during the school day. We never really had a significant number of students take this fitness course. They usually took physical education. What we also do is we offer a summer lifting program. We offer now with Coach Suissa and Coach Hoy, usually 4 out of the 5 days we have kids using our gym before school. It is our hope next year that we plan to offer a course at 6:30 a.m. next year. We call it our 0 hour. And we're going to offer that for credit for physical education. And we'll have one of our certified physical education teachers teach that course. But what we want to do is be able to allow students before to utilize the weight room and to also be able to take the courses that they want during the school day. Because that's kind of what inhibited them from taking those courses when we offered it in conjunction from the 1st to 8th hour, and they were doubling up. They'd go in the morning because they were part of a sports program. Well, then they'd also have their fitness class or weightlifting class on 4th period. So they were having to do it twice a day, and they were losing out on any courses that might be offered opposite 4th period. So that's the plan in our weight room facility. What we currently have also is, and I'm going to have Coach Suissa talk to this, is a huge number of kids coming in the morning and utilizing our facilities. I'm just going to have you talk about the planning went through with with Gary, and go from there, and how many kids you're servicing right now, and then I'll kind of expand on it.
Part of the reason that we're asking for this money, or asking for the weight room equipment, is mostly because of, I guess, lack of planning on my part when we initially did the weight room. The gentleman's name that set us up with our equipment was Chip Mayberry through Mr. Richardson. And when we originally ordered our racks, we ordered 4 racks. And I guess I was just fresh off the school board at the time, so I was being pretty frugal. But when we ordered them initially, Mr. Mayberry had said to me, "Are you sure that's all you want is 4?" Well, we since added 5. Well, at the time, we had 22 kids out for football. And we only had, I believe at the time, there was only maybe 30 out for junior high football. We just had sign up. We have 44 out for football, signed up for high school next year. We just added another kid today who asked me if he could go out. So now we're at 45. And we had, I believe, 46 junior high kids sign up. So that's 91 kids. With increased kids comes increased, I guess we need to increase our facilities and the things that we do. This morning we had 36 kids in the weight room. When football comes, it'll be mandatory 2 days a week, so we'll have 44 just in the high school. When we turn around and have the junior high come in with them, that's a voluntary deal. We're getting somewhere between 20 to 30 junior high kids, we will in the fall anyway, which is going to give us 60-some kids. That does not include the period 0, which will include girls. So if you anticipate 10 to 12 girls, which could be more, you're looking at 70 kids. Right now we have 5 racks. According to USA Weightlifting, they suggest that you have no more than 6 kids per rack as a safety issue. Right now we're working at that with 36 kids, let alone if we get 80. So you can see why we need to add more racks. Platform Athletics is currently the group that we're using as far as our strength and conditioning program. They're certified strength and conditioning specialists. For their program, they recommend no more than 6 people per rack. At times, we've had almost 10 kids per rack. So, like I said, at the time, it suited us when we had 22 kids. We have outgrown that. It's the price of progress, I guess. You have successful seasons, you're going to have more kids. Can we do it without it? Yeah, but it's a safety issue. And if it's something that we're going to keep asking kids to continue to do, to improve, I think we need to give them the tools in order to do so. I brought a few kids along. They were nice enough to sit through that riveting budget part of the meeting. So if you guys have questions with them, they'll be happy to answer any of it. Bear in mind, they were freshmen and sophomores when they started. Now they're seniors, so I know through that. So I don't know if they'll. Yeah. So there was, like I said, there's 36 kids this morning. There was 46. We've had up to 46. We've had as few as 26 over the last month here when I've been keeping track of it. When football starts, there will definitely be close to 60 kids in there, and that's without period 0. You're welcome to come any morning at 6:30 as well. See it for yourself.
Are you getting this from the same guy that you bought the original equipment from?
It actually is a different guy. When we went through through Mr. Mayberry, that was through Mr. Richardson. It's the same equipment and pretty much the same cost, if I remember from what they had before. The only thing is that this Magnum Matrix system, they have a dealership in Iowa now, and we have to go through second wind exercise because of that. We can't go through a guy in Florida, which we did before. But it's the exact same stuff. All of it's the same stuff.
Those are what we're talking about. You'll notice we have 5 of those in our current facility. We want to go up to 7. As part of this, because it is also involved in activities, I approached the Booster Club on Wednesday evening, and I asked them to assist us, and they have decided that they would submit $3,628.46 towards the purchase of this. The reason for that number is I took one of those platforms there, and I am purchasing that with activity funds. So the other half of that would be co-ed activity would be used to purchase the one rack. So then there would be $7,256.92 remaining for one rack that I would like purchased out of general fund PE dollars, because we will be offering this as a PE credit, and I'd like it appropriately equipped to safely utilize in our facility.
Do they come set it up for you?
That is correct. That includes setup.
That also includes all the weights as well, which is, that's a pretty significant expense. And if you guys go in our weight room now and look at how this has held up the last 2 years, they pretty much talked me into doing the rubber-coated weights because of the wear and tear, if it's metal clanging against metal, and then as far as setting the weights, if you set them up against a rack, how it'll chip it. They talked me into it because of I think it added maybe 20% or 25% to the cost of the weight, but it has kept our facility in much better shape because of the rubber-coated weights. I wouldn't do anything other than that now. So I'm glad they talked me into it, I guess.
Ryan, what do you see going down the road with the 5 existing ones as far as needed repairs? I mean,
they're holding up great after 2 years. They're in great shape. Everything's in. I mean, I wouldn't stray from this Magnum Matrix. They're a pretty solidly built deal, and we knew that going in when we got it. We did it right to start.
You can also see there's, unlike other equipment, there's not many moving parts, so the need for maintenance is relatively minimal. The one thing that we do have to continue to upkeep is just due to continual use, but this is the platform that they set on also. We, just like any other floor, it needs to be sealed, needs to be maintained, those type of things, but that is about the only maintenance that I see occurring on those.
If you're questioning any numbers coming up, our youth football program last year had like 66 kids in it. So our numbers aren't going to decrease, I don't think.
This course will be, like Coach Suisa alluded to, will be open up to any student. They do not have to be in football, they do not have to be in basketball. 0 out, yes. Females, yep.
So does that mean then that you'll have a PE class also though for the ones that don't?
Correct. PE will still be offered first period through 8th, just like we currently do. We will not be reducing that. What it will assist in is what we run into is actually because of our increased numbers, we're looking at bigger classes in our PE, and so those off days where they have health in classrooms where we're looking at upwards of 30 kids. The challenge there is, my PE instructors are saying classroom time is challenging when you get to those numbers. So this would reduce that regular general PE and hopefully save us from having to increase FTE in the physical education department by offering this 0 hour.
Being that, excuse me, activity fund is paying for part of this, does that change anything with ownership?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, I mean, it's just, I don't mean physically, but I meant, this is ours, that's yours, it doesn't change, it's just part of it.
Are you talking about the Booster Club or the activity? The Booster Club. The Booster Club is always just, I mean, as Don has been on the Booster Club, they've always, when they give something to school, it's
to the school.
And the last one, our fifth platform actually was purchased by the Booster Club. So currently already they purchased one whole one themselves. This would be in addition to what they were purchasing those.
So what you're asking for has changed.
No, well, I showed you the entire cost. What I need is, out of that total cost, I need the general fund to expend $7,256.92 towards
Versus the
that.
14.
Versus the 14, yes.
Could you say that amount?
I certainly can. $7,256.92. And then the co-ed activity fund, which is an activity fund, not general, would be $3,628.46.
Co-ed activity fund.
Okay.
Our co-ed activity general. We have a line item that's,
Says co-ed activity.
That's basically just the.
it's basically the
sports fund,
yeah,
right?
sports. Yeah, that's our, I mean, if you know which one it is, Mr. Cook. It's all the ones when, basketball, all those are, there's a general line item in there.
For basketball and football.
Right, but there's also, yeah.
Football fundraisers and basketball fundraisers.
Correct.
Those
It'd be
are
separate from the fundraisers, but it's in that same account.
We talk about fundraisers.
So as we add more, Ryan,
Yeah.
as we add more people in the upcoming years even, are we running into a room situation where we have room for these machines? I mean, are we doing it now?
Well, this is kind of looking forward, I guess. Right now, we currently only have 2 juniors out for football because that's such a small boys class. And so, like I said, we had 4, we added, the Booster Club paid for 5. This is what we're gonna need in order to, the space is adequate. The space will be
Okay.
fine. Yeah, the space is fine.
Okay.
The one thing that we will look at, and this is what I talked to you about the Booster Club, is looking at replacing, actually kind of trading in our non-free weight equipment. We have a lot of exercise equipment, butterfly machines, the machine type things that tend to be very nice to look at and great, but our overall use of them within a fitness program that we have, it's kind of set up for old people like me, to go set up. I'm not a free weighter usually. So, but usually high school kids are usually doing the free weights, the Olympic lifts, those type of things. And so if we had a very similar situation like Orange City, in which we kind of modeled after, that's also a community facility. So it's used, with those types of machines are used by other different age range individuals as opposed to high school age range. So we're looking at possibly trading those in for more credit. And then in turn would open up space for more platforms if in the future we need to expand even further. Did that kind of answer what you were talking about?
For our program, the stuff in the middle would be a great coat hanger. It served no purpose for the athletes.
Okay, so we understand that what we're looking at here is the quote from Second Wind Exercise Incorporated. The amount is $14,000, which it is going to cost that, but we have funding from 2 other sources that reduces the cost to the fund, to the
For the general
fund, down to $7,256.92. So is this going to be where we pay for it all and then it's reimbursed back to us, correct? Like the activity funds?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody understand that?
And that's because of safety. Taking it out of general fund for safety.
And because it's part of the physical education program, we're going to offer it for credit.
That's,
Good question.
It's an out.
okay. I would entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve these weightlifting and fitness
motion made by Tim McKinney to accept the quote from Second Wind Exercise for the Matrix Magnum stations, including the weights, correct, Ryan?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Coons. Any further questions in regards to what we're voting on? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you for presentation. There being nothing else at this time, our next regular board meeting is Monday, April 20th. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Motion made by Mr. McKinney. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Coons. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same.